There comes a point in life where the weight gets heavy, not because you're weak, but because you've been carrying more than you ever thought you could. You smile in rooms where your heart feels broken. You show up for others when you barely have anything left for yourself. And in the midst of all that, God whispers, push yourself. Not because he wants to exhaust you, but because he wants to awaken you. Happiness doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it's born out of resistance. It's the decision to show up for you even when everything in your world tells you to give up. This message isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about finding light in the middle of chaos and peace in the middle of pressure. It's about knowing that your joy is not circumstantial, it's spiritual. And if you can push yourself through the pain, you'll see that happiness isn't lost. It's waiting on the other side of your endurance. When we talk about happiness, most people imagine it as this faraway place. A season will finally reach when everything lines up, when the bills are paid, when the pain stops, when the relationship is fixed, when the job works out, when the body heals. But happiness was never meant to be the finish line. Happiness is a discipline. It's a daily choice, a spiritual muscle that has to be trained in the gym of your trials. If you wait for everything to be perfect before you decide to be happy, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Happiness doesn't come when things are right. It comes when your spirit decides to rise, even when everything around you feels wrong. You see, the enemy doesn't just attack your peace, he attacks your perspective. He wants you to believe that joy is only possible after the storm passes, but what if God is teaching you to sing in the storm? What if the real power isn't in waiting for the rainbow, but in learning how to dance in the rain? That's where discipline comes in, because happiness is not emotional, it's intentional. It's waking up every morning and deciding that your mood won't be manipulated by your moment. It's looking at the chaos around you and saying, I still choose peace. I still choose joy. When life gets hard, happiness becomes a fight. You'll have to fight against the urge to complain. You'll have to fight the temptation to compare your life to someone else's highlight reel. You'll have to fight the narrative that tells you you're too broken to be joyful. The truth is, you can be both healing and happy at the same time. You can be rebuilding and rejoicing at the same time. God never asks you to wait until everything makes sense before you walk in gratitude. In fact, gratitude is what brings clarity. Happiness built on faith is stronger than happiness built on circumstance, because it doesn't crumble when the situation changes. Discipline means you have to do it when you don't feel like it. It means you smile when your heart is heavy. It means you praise when your soul is weary. It means you give thanks when your eyes still see pain, because every time you push yourself to choose joy, you're reminding your spirit that happiness is not stolen, it's strengthened. The same way a muscle gets stronger through resistance, your joy gets deeper through pressure. It's in those moments when life presses you that your true strength is revealed. We often misunderstand happiness as the absence of problems, but it's really the presence of perspective. A disciplined heart understands that even pain has purpose. Even disappointment is a teacher. Even delay is divine. So instead of asking, why me? Start asking, what are you teaching me, God? Happiness rooted in discipline doesn't need everything to go right. It just needs you to stay aligned, because alignment produces peace even when circumstances produce chaos. When you're disciplined in happiness, you stop being reactive. You don't let bad days dictate your destiny. You stop allowing every setback to define your story. Instead, you anchor your emotions in what's eternal, not what's temporary. Because let's be honest, emotions are like waves. They rise and they fall, but discipline, that's your surfboard. It helps you ride the wave instead of drowning in it. When your happiness becomes disciplined, You learn that you don't have to feel good to know that good things are still working for you. Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for good to them that love God. Notice, it doesn't say all good things. It says all things, even the things that hurt, even the things you didn't choose, even the things that broke your heart. God can use them to shape a deeper joy within you. Discipline also means boundaries. Some of you aren't happy not because life is bad, but because you've let too many people have access to your peace. You've handed over your happiness to people who don't know how to handle it. When you make happiness a discipline, you protect it like it's sacred. You stop explaining your peace to people who thrive on chaos. You stop giving away your energy to battles that don't serve your destiny. You learn to say no without guilt, to rest without apology, to walk away without explanation. Happiness becomes your responsibility, not your reward. And let's be real, there will be days you won't feel it. Days when your joy feels like it's on life support. That's okay. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about persistence. On those days, happiness looks like small victories. It looks like getting out of bed when you wanted to give up. It looks like saying a prayer when you felt too weak to talk. It looks like smiling through tears because you believe there's still something worth fighting for. That's what disciplined happiness looks like. It's raw, it's real, and it's relentless. Some of the most powerful people in the Bible learned to be happy in hard places. Paul wrote about joy while sitting in a prison cell. David sang praises while running from enemies. Jesus endured the cross because of the joy set before him. That's not a happiness born out of ease. That's happiness born out of faith. When you push yourself to be happy in hard times, you're not ignoring your pain. You're inviting purpose into it. You're telling your soul, I may not control the storm, but I control my song. Every time you choose happiness, heaven takes notice. Every time you decide to smile through the struggle, hell loses power, because happiness, when disciplined, becomes warfare. It becomes a declaration that says, you can't break me. You can shake me, but I'll still rise. The enemy wants you to quit. He wants you to drown in despair, but you're too powerful for that. You've survived too much to stop now. You've cried too many tears not to dance again. So push yourself. Push past the pain, push past the fear, push past the doubt, because happiness is not a reward waiting at the end of your struggle. It's a rhythm you can find in the middle of it. When you make happiness a discipline, you no longer wait for joy to come to you. You become joy itself. Life will always have battles. Some are loud and public, others are silent and internal. And while you're out there fighting to keep your family together, fighting to stay strong, fighting to believe in yourself again, sometimes you forget to breathe. You forget that even warriors need rest. You forget that even faith-filled people can grow weary. There's a rhythm to surviving hard seasons, and it's not constant fighting. It's learning when to breathe between the battles. When Sarah Jakes Roberts talks about healing, she often reminds us that grace isn't just what saves you, it's what sustains you. You were never meant to live in a constant state of war. Some of you have been fighting for so long that peace feels uncomfortable. You've been in survival mode so long that calm feels suspicious. You're waiting for the next bad thing to happen because that's what you've been conditioned to expect. But God didn't call you to live like that. He called you to live with breath, to rest in his promise, even when the battle hasn't ended yet. To breathe between battles means you stop living like everything depends on you. It means you trust that even when you're not moving, God is. It's learning to pause without feeling like you're falling behind. It's giving yourself permission to stop striving for a moment and just be. Because peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of God in the middle of them. When you learn to breathe, you remember that your spirit needs space to heal. Your mind needs room to process. And your soul needs silence to reset. Sometimes we confuse busyness with purpose. We think if we're not doing something, we're wasting time. But not every pause is a loss of progress. Some pauses are preparation. Some pauses are protection. God will slow you down to save you. He'll make you rest so you can rebuild. He'll take you through seasons of stillness, not because he's forgotten you, but because he's fortifying you. So breathe. Don't rush your restoration. Don't try to sprint through what was meant to be walked out. The power of breathing between battles is that it teaches you how to live from a place of wholeness, not exhaustion. You can't pour from an empty cup. And you can't keep fighting if you've forgotten how to rest. Some of you have been fighting everyone else's battles, carrying people, fixing situations, rescuing souls, and you wonder why you're tired. It's not that your faith is weak, it's that your boundaries are. You've been trying to be everyone's hero when God never asked you to be. He asked you to be obedient, not omnipresent. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in the middle of a fight is stop and take a breath. That breath reminds you that you're not alone. It reconnects you to the spirit that fights for you. Breathing between battles means learning to exhale what you can't control and inhale what you can. Peace, gratitude, perspective, and trust. When you breathe, you make room for God's strategy. Because when you're overwhelmed, you react, but when you breathe, you respond with wisdom. The enemy wants to keep you in panic mode. He wants your mind racing, your emotions spiraling, your spirit tired. But when you breathe, you remind him that you are grounded in grace. You remind yourself that even in chaos, you have authority over your atmosphere. Sometimes that breath looks like prayer. Sometimes it looks like worship. Sometimes it's just silence, sitting in God's presence, letting his peace do what your plans can't. There's healing in stillness. When you stop striving, you can finally hear what heaven has been trying to say. Because clarity rarely comes in noise. You can't hear divine instructions when your soul is suffocating under pressure. That's why you must breathe between the battles, because peace is your power source. Think about Elijah. After calling down fire from heaven and defeating false prophets, he ran into the wilderness and told God he was done. He was exhausted. He had just won a major victory, but didn't have the strength to celebrate it. God didn't rebuke him. He fed him, let him rest, and told him to sleep. Then God whispered, not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still, small voice. The whisper came after the breath. The whisper came when Elijah finally stopped running and rested. That's how God speaks. In stillness, not in struggle. Learning to breathe between battles also means learning to detach your identity from constant achievement. You're not only valuable when you're productive, you're valuable because you exist. You don't have to prove your worth by constantly fighting to keep everything together. Sometimes faith is not fighting harder, it's resting deeper. It's saying, God, I trust you enough to sit down. It's understanding that your peace is proof of your trust. There's a beauty in slowing down. When you breathe, you start to notice things you missed while rushing. You see blessings in the little things. You see that the world didn't fall apart while you took a break. You realize that even in pause, progress happens. Breathing makes room for gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, from what's broken to what's still beautiful. And that's where happiness finds you, not in the next breakthrough, but in the moment you finally exhale. Sometimes breathing between battles will look like saying no to toxic cycles, no to overcommitment, no to carrying weight that isn't yours. Every no is a breath for your soul. Every boundary is an act of spiritual self-care. God didn't design you to live burned out. He designed you to live balanced. When you protect your peace, you protect your purpose. There will be moments where you want to give up because you feel tired, but being tired doesn't mean you're done. It means you're human. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowds to rest and pray. Even the strongest warriors need to breathe. Rest is not weakness, it's wisdom. You can't hear heaven's plan if you're always gasping for air. When you learn to breathe, you learn to trust that you don't have to fight every battle alone. Some battles belong to God. Some burdens were never yours to carry. So pause. Inhale his peace, exhale your pressure. Let go of the guilt that says rest is lazy. Let go of the fear that says you'll fall behind. You're not falling behind, you're being refilled. The world glorifies hustle, but heaven honors balance. There's a difference between moving with grace and running on fumes. God didn't anoint you to be anxious. He anointed you to be anchored. When you learn to breathe between battles, you step into a rhythm of grace. You stop performing and start flowing. You start realizing that you can be strong and still need rest. You can be anointed and still need quiet. You can be chosen and still need a moment to catch your breath, because even in the fight, your Father is fighting for you. All he's asking is that you don't lose yourself in the battle. Take a breath, child of God. You're still standing, and that's proof that grace is still working. Peace is one of the most expensive gifts God will ever give you, and once you've truly experienced it, you'll do anything to protect it. Because peace isn't passive, it's power. It's the calm in your spirit when the world around you is chaotic. It's the quiet confidence that tells you God's got this even when everything seems uncertain. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's spiritual stewardship. It's understanding that your mind, your emotions, and your spirit are sacred spaces, and not everyone deserves access to them. There comes a time when you've been through enough storms to realize that peace is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build. You build it through prayer, through discipline, through boundaries. You build it by saying, I refuse to let the enemy rent space in my mind. Some of us are exhausted not because of the battles we fought, but because of the people and thoughts we've allowed to live rent-free in our spirit. Protecting your peace means you stop giving your energy to things that drain you. It means you stop apologizing for needing space. It means you stop explaining your healing to people who benefit from your brokenness. Sarah Jakes Roberts often says, peace is the proof of your growth. Because when you start growing spiritually, you no longer need to respond to everything that tries to provoke you. You stop chasing validation. You stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. Growth makes silence feel more powerful than defense. When you protect your peace, you realize that not everything deserves your reaction. Sometimes the best response is none at all. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that peace is too precious to waste on pettiness. Protecting your peace means understanding that everyone can go where God is taking you. Some relationships, environments, and habits can't coexist with your next level. God can't fill your cup if you keep letting people poke holes in it. You have to learn to separate comfort from calling. Comfort says, stay where it's familiar. Calling says, move where it's peaceful. Peace often comes with separation. And that's not punishment, it's protection. God will remove people not because they're evil, but because they're loud. Their noise distracts you from his whisper. Peace requires boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're fences to keep your focus in. When you don't set boundaries, you're teaching others that your peace is optional. But when you guard your peace, you're honoring what God has placed in you. Boundaries look like not answering that late night text, not entertaining drama disguised as concern, not letting guilt manipulate you into saying yes when your soul is screaming no. Boundaries are how you teach the world how to treat the peace you've prayed for. Protecting your peace also means monitoring your internal dialogue. Sometimes the loudest voice disturbing your peace is your own. You replay old mistakes, relive old wounds, and resurrect old versions of yourself that God already buried. You can't have peace if you keep revisiting pain. Peace grows in the soil of forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness. You have to stop holding yourself hostage to who you were. The past is a teacher, not a prison. Every time you choose grace over guilt, you protect your peace. Every time you remind yourself, I'm still worthy, I'm still chosen, you reclaim your calm. And let's talk about emotional clutter. Just like your home, your heart can get crowded. You can't invite peace in if there's no room for it to sit. Sometimes God will let things fall apart, not to punish you, but to clear space. He'll strip away distractions so you can finally see that peace was never missing. It was just buried under what you refused to release. You have to declutter your soul, release resentment, release control, release the need to always understand what God is doing. You don't have to understand everything to have peace. You just have to trust that God knows what he's doing. Protecting your peace is also about what you consume, what you read, watch, and listen to feeds your spirit. If you're constantly filling yourself with negativity, gossip, or comparison, peace won't survive in that atmosphere. Guard your gates, your eyes, your ears, your mouth. Feed your soul with faith. Surround yourself with people who speak life, not confusion. Protect your peace like you protect your password, because not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Sometimes the battle for peace is an internal tug of war between your flesh and your faith. Your flesh says react, your faith says rest. Your flesh says get even, your faith says let God handle it. It's not easy, but every time you choose restraint over reaction, you strengthen your spirit. Peace is power under control. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Jesus demonstrated that kind of peace. He slept in the storm while his disciples panicked. He didn't calm the storm first. He carried peace before he spoke peace. That's what it means to protect your peace. You become the calm in chaos, not the chaos in calm. Some of you are in a season where your peace feels fragile. Everything around you seems to be fighting for your attention, drama, disappointment, deadlines, and doubt. But even in that, God is teaching you to anchor yourself in him. Peace doesn't mean your life is perfect. It means your heart is stable. When the wind blows, you bend but don't break. Because your peace isn't rooted in people, it's rooted in presence, the presence of God. When you protect your peace, you protect your power to hear God clearly. The enemy knows he can't destroy you, so he distracts you. He'll use noise to make you anxious, confusion to make you doubt, and pressure to make you panic. That's why peace is warfare. It disarms the enemy. The moment you stop reacting, he loses his grip. When you stay peaceful in chaos, you remind darkness that it no longer has authority over you. Protecting your peace will cost you things, attention, approval, even some people. But that's okay. Peace is worth the price, because once you live without it, you'll never settle for a life that disturbs it. You'll realize that peace is not found in possessions, promotions, or popularity. It's found in presence, the presence of God, the presence of truth, the presence of alignment. So stop explaining your peace to people who don't value theirs. Stop apologizing for choosing quiet over chaos. Stop reopening doors God already closed. You don't owe anyone access to your peace just because they knew you in your pain. The version of you that's healing deserves to live in peace, not guilt. Protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. It's your proof that you've evolved, your sign that you've survived, and your reminder that you're finally walking in the calm you once prayed for. For most of your life, the world has told you what winning should look like. Success, status, money, marriage, followers, applause. But what if God's definition of winning doesn't look like any of that? What if winning isn't about being seen, but about staying faithful? What if it's not about how far you go, but how deeply you grow? Sometimes the victory isn't in what you've gained. It's in what you've survived. Sometimes the win is that you didn't lose your mind in the process. Sarah Jakes Roberts often reminds us that real success is alignment, not attention, because attention fades, but alignment feels destiny. When you redefine what winning looks like, You stop competing with others and start connecting with your calling. You stop chasing applause and start chasing purpose. You stop asking, what do they think of me, and start asking, am I becoming who God created me to be? Winning in God's kingdom doesn't always come with trophies. Sometimes it comes with tears. Sometimes it comes with silence. Sometimes it comes with scars that tell the story of your survival. The world celebrates the highlight reel, but heaven honors the hidden work, the quiet obedience, the late nights you prayed instead of quitting, the moments you forgave when you had every right to be bitter, the days you showed up for your assignment even when no one was clapping. That's winning. That's strength. That's spiritual maturity. When you redefine winning, you free yourself from the weight of comparison, because comparison is the thief of peace and the killer of purpose. You can't celebrate your own journey if you're too busy watching someone else's race. Their timing is not your timing. Their blessing is not your blessing. God's plan for you is customized. It can't be copied. So stop measuring your progress with someone else's ruler. Winning for you might mean healing this season. It might mean resting. It might mean finally saying no to what drains you. Sometimes your victory won't make sense to people who are still chasing validation. To redefine winning, you must first redefine losing. Losing doesn't mean you failed. It means you learned. It means you discovered what doesn't align with your destiny. Every closed door, every heartbreak, every rejection, it wasn't meant to humiliate you. It was meant to redirect you. God will use what you think is a loss to set you up for legacy. When you surrender the world's version of success, you make room for divine success. Because God's idea of a win is transformation, not transaction. He's not counting how many times you've been celebrated. He's counting how many times you've been changed. Winning might look like peace after a storm that should have destroyed you. It might look like walking away from something toxic instead of staying to prove a point. It might look like forgiving someone who never apologized. It might look like finally sleeping through the night because your heart is no longer heavy. Sometimes the victory is invisible to others, but undeniable to your spirit. You may not have the job, the ring, or the recognition, but if you have peace, purpose, and progress, you're already winning. There's a sacred kind of strength in letting go of the scoreboard, because the scoreboard will make you think you're behind when in reality, God is just preparing your next season. The delay isn't a denial, it's divine pacing. You can't rush destiny, and you can't measure purpose with metrics. Some wins are slow. Some blessings unfold over time. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. You're not losing ground, you're gaining depth. When you start defining winning through God's eyes, you realize that obedience is the real victory. Every time you say yes to his will, even when it costs you something, heaven records it as a win. Every time you choose healing over hurt, faith over fear, purpose over popularity, that's winning. Winning doesn't mean life gets easier. It means your spirit gets stronger. It means you've learned to smile even when the outcome is uncertain. It means you've stopped performing and started transforming. Redefining winning also requires releasing the need to prove yourself. You don't have to prove that you're enough when God already called you chosen. You don't have to prove that you're capable when you're covered. You don't have to prove your worth when it's already sealed by grace. The pressure to prove is what drains your peace. But when you redefine winning, you realize that your validation doesn't come from people, it comes from purpose. You can lose their approval and still win your assignment. You can lose their applause and still hear heaven say, well done. Let's be real. Sometimes winning means walking away. It means knowing when a chapter is over. It means releasing what no longer serves your spirit, even if it breaks your heart. You can't carry everything into your next season. Some things have to be left behind for you to rise. That's not failure, it's faith. It takes courage to outgrow people, places, and patterns. It takes strength to say, this isn't my battlefield anymore. When you redefine winning, you stop fighting for things that drain you and start fighting for your peace. Winning doesn't always look like celebration. It often looks like quiet consistency. The real winners aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who keep showing up when no one's watching. The ones who keep believing even when they don't see results. The ones who trust that God's timing is still perfect even when their timeline feels delayed. That's the kind of win that lasts. The kind that's rooted in faith, not flash. There will be seasons where God hides you, and that's still winning. Because in hiding, he's developing you. He's refining your heart so that when you do step into the spotlight, you won't crumble under the weight of visibility. Sometimes the hidden season is the holiest season. Don't mistake obscurity for insignificance. You're still winning, even when no one sees it. Redefining winning is about shifting your focus from outcomes to obedience, from results to resilience, from fame to faithfulness. When you understand that losing a battle doesn't mean you've lost the war, because the ultimate victory is not external, it's internal. It's the peace of knowing you stayed true to yourself. It's the quiet assurance that says, even if it didn't work out the way I wanted, I still trust God's way. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are being refined. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment, it's developing your depth. Winning is not about arriving, it's about evolving. So take the pressure off yourself. You don't have to look successful to be successful. You don't have to have it all together to be in alignment. You just have to keep growing, keep showing up, and keep trusting that even when it doesn't look like you're winning, you're still walking in victory. Because in God's eyes, the moment you refuse to quit, you've already won. Trusting the process is one of the hardest lessons God will ever teach you because it requires you to walk by faith, not by sight. It means you have to believe that something good is happening even when everything around you feels broken. It means surrendering control when your heart is desperate for answers. It means showing up for your life even when the outcome doesn't make sense. When Sarah Jakes Roberts preaches about pain, she reminds us that God doesn't waste it, he weaves it. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour is still part of the divine design. But trusting that truth in the middle of the storm, that's the challenge. That's where faith becomes real. The process will hurt because growth always does. Transformation is not gentle. It stretches you. It dismantles who you thought you were so you can become who God intended you to be. There will be moments when you'll feel forgotten, overlooked, or even betrayed by the very path you prayed for. But what if this pain isn't punishment? What if it's preparation? What if God is breaking what's fragile to build what's firm? Trusting the process means you believe that even when it looks like it's falling apart, it's actually coming together in a way you can't yet see. You see, we love the promise, but we struggle with the process. We shout for the vision, but we groan through the journey. The process will take you through places that don't look like your destination, and it will test whether you can keep faith in the middle of uncertainty. It's easy to trust God when you can trace him, but the real growth happens when you can't see him and still believe he's working. Trusting the process is not about having all the answers. It's about having the right posture. It's saying, God, I don't understand this, but I still trust you. The truth is, the process will often look like loss. It will look like doors closing that you thought were meant for you. It will look like people walking away who you thought would stay forever. It will look like silence when you were expecting a sign. But the silence isn't abandonment, it's incubation. God does his best work in the dark. Just like a seed must be buried before it grows, your dreams often have to be hidden before they bloom. The dirt that covers you isn't meant to suffocate you. It's meant to develop you. And if you can stay planted when everything in you wants to quit, you'll see that the same pressure that tried to break you is the very thing that's birthing you. Trusting the process requires surrender, and surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's acknowledging that your plan might be good, but God's plan is perfect. It's letting go of the need to control the narrative and allowing God to write the story. Sometimes he'll write in ways that confuse you, but later you'll look back and realize that every plot twist had purpose. Every closed door was protection. Every not yet was actually not here. Every heartbreak was holy redirection. When you trust the process, you stop begging for clarity and start believing in completion. There will be days when the process feels unbearable, days when the pain feels personal. You'll cry, you'll question, you'll want to give up. But in those moments, remember, diamonds are made under pressure, not comfort. Oil is produced by crushing, not ease. Gold is refined by fire, not by safety. So if you're in the fire, don't panic. It means there's something precious inside you that's being purified. God doesn't let his chosen ones go through pain without purpose. You're being molded, not destroyed. You're being developed, not dismissed. Trusting the process also means trusting the pace. Sometimes God will move slower than your expectations because he's working on things you can't see. You're praying for promotion, but he's building your patience. You're asking for a blessing, but he's strengthening your character. You're begging for visibility, but he's teaching you humility. The process is not punishment, it's preparation for sustainability. You don't want a blessing you can't handle. You don't want a platform that can't support your purpose. God's timing is not just about what you're getting, it's about who you're becoming. When you learn to trust the process, you start finding peace in the in-between. You stop rushing seasons and start resting in them. You realize that even when it hurts, God is still good. You learn to praise in the hallway while waiting for the door to open. You begin to understand that delays are not denials. They're divine development. Every waiting season has weight. Every pause has purpose. The longer you wait, the deeper your roots grow, and deep roots create strong trees. Serita Jakes often says, sometimes God will let everything fall apart just to show you that he's the only thing holding it together. That's what trusting the process looks like. It's knowing that even if everything else collapses, your foundation in him will still stand. It's believing that the God who started this work in you is faithful to finish it. It's realizing that pain doesn't disqualify you, it develops you. Your tears aren't wasted. They're watering the ground for your next harvest. And yes, the process will expose your fears, it will test your faith, it will challenge your patience, but it will also reveal your resilience. You'll discover strength you didn't know you had, peace you didn't think you could find, and a version of yourself that could only be born through pressure. Every breakdown carries the potential for a breakthrough. Every wilderness leads to a promised land. Every detour leads to destiny. You just have to trust that the God who allowed the pain also has a plan for it. Sometimes trusting the process means you keep walking even when the road is rough. You keep showing up even when your heart is tired. You keep praying even when heaven seems silent. Because faith isn't proven in the outcome, it's proven in the endurance. When you refuse to give up, you're telling God, I trust you more than I trust what I see. That's where miracles happen, in the tension between your pain and your perseverance. So don't rush what God is doing. Don't curse the process that's creating your promise. You might not see the full picture yet, but every step, every tear, every test is part of the masterpiece. Trust the process, even when it hurts, because pain is not the end. It's the evidence that something new is being born. The process doesn't mean God is absent. It means he's active. And if you can hold on in the hard part, you'll live to see why it had to happen this way.